Where do you see the growth at this point at Chubb? I know you've done a lot of acquisitions, obviously. Is that still in the cards going forward, or do you think that the growth now comes from organic, now that have you filled up the holes in terms of acquisitions?
Maria, over the last 15 years, 2/3 of our growth has come organically, only 1/3 through acquisitions. So frankly, while I wouldn't say that we're ever done making acquisitions, in that regard, you stay tuned.
Yeah.
But if this company never makes another acquisition, the growth opportunity in front of us is simply enormous.
Why?
Well, you look at the growth of economies, and we insure exposure. And as economies grow, as people rise out of into middle income, as businesses develop, so does exposure. And so our opportunity to grow our business. Our growth opportunity in the United States is tremendous, particularly among small and medium-sized enterprises and personal insurance. Asia, Latin America, where we have a tremendous presence, the rise of the middle class, the growth of those economies, tremendous opportunity for insurers because there's just more exposure, more for people to lose, and so insurance is a necessary part of the economic plumbing.
It's really a powerful position that you find yourself in. I want to ask you about the broad economy, because on Capitol Hill now the Trump administration is working on this framework for tax reform. We're expecting you to get the details next week of a $1.5 trillion tax cut potentially. How would Chubb get impacted from tax reform? And you say a lot of the customers you're talking, small and mid-cap businesses, they're going to see the big impact as you see the pass-through and the corporate rate come all the way down from 35% and even higher for some small businesses.
Maria, tax reform for business has two important priorities: bring the rate down as low as possible, and secondly, territorial tax system, which we don't have today. As you know, we tax worldwide income on companies and not a territorial system, so we're at a disadvantage, and we don't incent companies to bring capital back to our economy. If we, in fact, implement this kind of tax reform, the stimulus to our economy will be tremendous. And that will spur growth of business, growth of jobs. It'll raise incomes of individuals. And for insurance, that's a growth opportunity.
Yeah. And we're already seeing an anticipation of that, right? How do things feel to you right now? We saw a GDP number last month, which was pretty good. But then you've got the hurricanes and you've got the earthquakes. How much is that going to take the momentum out of economic growth, do you think?
Well, on one hand, in the short term, of course, the economy takes a short-term hit from disasters like this. But then it's stimulus after that because of the rebuilding that takes place. Enormous rebuilding in infrastructure and in replacing buildings and people's homes. And so, to the construction material business, to the contractors, it's a real opportunity for the economy.
The word in terms of the repatriation, you make such a good point. We've got, $2-3 trillion overseas. If we were to see a 10% rate on repatriation, do you think that money comes back here?
I think a substantial portion of that money will come back here because, I think like many businesses, I think the opportunity to invest in America is tremendous, and I think American business sees that.
It's a great point you make. I want to ask you about Chubb moving its EU head office from London to Paris following the UK's exit. Tell me about that. Is that largely because of Brexit?
Well, we have not moved our London headquarters. We're moving our European for the continent because Brexit will change the regulations for how financial companies out of London can behave. So we're establishing our European continental headquarters in Paris, in France. We've done business there for many years. We have a very large presence in France. The government and the regulation in France for insurance, they're enlightened regulators. The government has been quite accommodating, and so we picked France because we think that's the best place to locate a European headquarters.
You know, it's interesting. When you look all around the world, it's like the first time in a long time that you're seeing most economies globally actually show some growth, whether it be certain economies in Europe and certainly Asia, areas that you've got great presence.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, we're present in 55 countries around the world, throughout Asia, throughout Latin America, throughout Europe. And, you know, we're a true global organization, and we're focused on growth and taking advantage and supporting the economies and development in those countries
and growing
our business.
And right now you're knee-deep in supporting all of the people who need you, whether it's in Florida, Texas, the Caribbean, as we watch these disastrous numbers coming up. You think it's overall about 50 to 70 billion in damage. Anything else that you can glean from what you're seeing in terms of all of these catastrophes that have happened so far?
You know, we, and just to put a point on it, when our customers, when our insureds, when they suffer and they need to contact us, they receive a human being on the other end of the line. They don't receive an answering machine. And we answer a call within 5 seconds. We've got over 400 adjusters on the ground in just Irma and Harvey alone.
Wow.
We've already examined over 75% of all the losses that have come in on Harvey, and we're well on our way to doing the same thing under Irma. And we've got teams on the ground in Puerto Rico right now, and more flying in as soon as the airports allow and open. So that's really the role, is to service customers in this time of tragedy. That's why they buy insurance.
And they sure do. It's good to see you, Evan. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Maria, thank you for having me.
Evan Greenberg is the CEO at Chubb.